to Amusement Park Road Trip. And now your hosts, Matt and Brandon.
Thank you for joining us on this road trip today. My name is Matt, and I'm joined here with Brandon. How are you doing, Brandon?
Man, does anyone ever ask you if you got a case of the Tuesdays?
No. Hell no.
I got a case of the Tuesdays because obviously we're recording this the same day it comes out.
That's how it works. We record it and put it out right at midnight.
Guys, please join our live stream. This is a live. This is not a recording. You are listening to it live, unfiltered, unedited.
The unedited thing, before I started a podcast, I thought so many podcasts were unedited. And then I started doing it and I'm like, oh, everybody, like nobody is perfect. Even ones that are on video where you think it's not edited at all, they're still edited. They have to edit the audio and the video. Sorry to ruin your dreams. Anyway, that's a little peek into that's behind the scenes.
How the sausage is made.
Yeah, that's how the sausage is made. Today, we're taking a road trip to Lake Winnepesaukah in Rossville, Georgia. It's just south of Chattanooga, Tennessee. I just wanted to say Chattanooga. That's a fun one to say.
That's why we're doing the whole episode, so you could say Chattanooga.
I'm only going to mention it once. Actually, I'll say this. This was weird. You know when you go to a website and there's obviously a tab at the top? This one says Chattanooga on it. I think it says like Chattanooga Amusement Park. And I was so confused by that. So I don't know why it has that, but if you go to Lake Winnepesaukah's website, at the top on the tab, it'll say Chattanooga. Maybe that's coming up and they accidentally deployed that on their website before they've announced it.
Maybe.
Anyway, for my sake, because I fumble my words constantly, I'll probably just refer to this park as Lake Winnie throughout the rest of the episode. And that seems acceptable because a lot of people call it Lake Winnie.
Yes. The reason we're doing this podcast, right, is because I went to this park.
Yeah. Tell us about your trip, Brandon.
Oh, thanks for asking. No, I didn't go to this park. I actually did. So I went on a business trip. You know, I like telling people I went on a business trip. It just makes me feel so important. You know what I mean? I
totally agree. I know exactly what you mean.
You're at the airport. You're just kind of mulling around. You're all alone. Obviously, you don't have family with you. You strike up a conversation. Oh, what brings you to town? I'm on a business trip. Nothing is more satisfying than that. Nothing makes you feel more important.
But according to your wife, you were on vacation.
Yeah, according to my wife, I was on vacation. Yeah, it was just a nice, wonderful, smooth, easy vacation. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was in Georgia, also Louisville. So this park is kind of in the middle of both of those places. I was in Atlanta and Louisville. So this park was in the middle, kind of in the middle, the Chattanooga area. But I was like, well, I'm going to be in the area. You know, is there a park, some kind of amusement park I could visit? And I was surprised to know where we're from is not the only place that has an off season, because every park I looked at in both Kentucky and Georgia, they were all closed until March or April. So I did not get to take advantage of visiting an amusement park while in the area, but I would have totally visited this one if I could have, because it's amazing.
I have a business trip coming up in May, and it's in Denver, and I'm like a few miles away from Ellich Gardens. Is that how you say Ellich? I hope I'm not pronouncing that wrong, but I've already looked at it and told my boss, like, I think I might go a day early and hit up this amusement park. So we think the same way.
I think it's appropriate for the podcast that you would also go to Casa Bonita. That's the more appropriate place to visit. No one would be mad if you skipped Ellich Gardens and went to Casa Bonita instead.
We'll see about that.
I'm a listener, so I have a vote. So that's one listener vote. Maybe if someone else can chime in, agree with me, don't disagree with me, because that's where you need to go. So
we'll see. There's your fault. Nobody's going to chime in. So it's my vote against yours.
No, that's not fair. You're not a listener. You're an editor.
Man, we need to jump into this episode.
Let's jump. Let's do it. Like you dive into a lake, you know how people dive in the lakes. Let's dive right on in to Lake Winnie.
Very nice. Well,
Thanks.
When I first heard it, I was confused. I confused it with Lake Winnepesaukah, which I believe is the lake from What About Bob? I don't know if you've
I
seen that
feel like
movie.
they talk about Lake Winnepesaukah in The Office.
It is in New Hampshire, so
Never mind then.
no. But it's not Lake Winnepesaukah. It is Lake Winnepesaukah, which Winnepesaukah is a Native American word for bountiful waters or beautiful lake on the highlands, which is pretty cool. This park was built by Carl and Minette Dixon. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. Minette, Minette. Minette?
I'd say Manette. Yeah, Manette is what I'd say.
I'll only have to say it like one more time throughout the episode. So if it's wrong, I apologize. But Minette is not alive.
It's okay. They're not listening. No one cares.
They opened the park June 1st, 1925. It is definitely an old school amusement park coming up on 100 years next year. It's pretty cool. Even though it's old school, it's still really cool to visit. It's not falling apart and disgusting and really dumb. They've done a good job of making it feel like an antique amusement park, but not letting it fall apart. And actually, another cool thing about this park is that it is still owned by the Dixon family, which is nice. I don't know why it's cool when a family owns it and it stays family owned. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. It's funny. I think it is a good thing, yet our amusement park is family owned. And I think we have some issues that stem from that.
I was going to say, is it a good thing?
Yeah. So we won't get into that now, but
it's always, it's hard to, you like the idea of it being owned by a family, right? Because that sounds better rather than it being owned by some big conglomerate, some big entertainment conglomerate like B&M Entertainment or something, you know. But in theory, maybe everybody that owns a theme park is just bad people, you know.
Yeah.
Or they're good people. I don't know what I'm saying. You know what? We're just happy they're here. Okay. Who cares who owns it as long as it's a good park, right?
That's right. An overview of the park. There's 38 attractions, 3 coasters, and 4 water rides. The more I do these, the less I trust those counts because I look at the website and I'm like, wait a minute, does this not count as a roller coaster? Or like, because it said 2 roller coasters, but I'm pretty sure I counted 3. I'm like, I don't think these counts are right. But anyway, let's dig into some history of this park. This is where I think this park is really cool. So in 1924, Carl and Minette, that's the last time I'll say her name, Dixon purchased 100 acres of land surrounding a 9-acre lake. And I'm so curious in 1924 how much that purchase was for 100 acres. They wasted no time and opened the park June 1st, 1925 to 5,000 guests. So I'd say it's a pretty good day. It's not a huge park. So 5,000 people, that's pretty good. You want to know what those people did to enjoy their day?
What do they do?
Boating, fishing, and picnicking.
Boring.
What a time. What a time to be alive in 1925. Like, come on, family, let's go picnic with 5,000 other people. But it's still cool. In 1926, so the next year, the Dixons opened a 22,000 square foot swimming pool, which was the largest in the Southeast United States at the time. I am so bad with measurements, so I honestly don't know how big that is. I have no idea. Could be huge. It could be laughable now that was at one point the biggest. I don't know. In 1927, so the year after that, Boat Chute was opened. And this is a mill chute, which has a long tunnel, a long black tunnel. These tunnels are often referred to tunnels of love. And if you probably can figure out why it would be called that, or also river cave. So I noticed something. I picked up on something. They kept referring to this as a mill chute and not a log ride. I would just assume it'd be like a flume ride, a log ride. But those are actually, there's differences between those, which I did not know.
All right. Here we go again.
Yeah, here we go again.
Debating the difference between a mill chute and a log ride.
Well, a log ride is derived from a mill chute. So they're still very similar. But when I looked up, like, what is the difference? I really couldn't get a straight answer. I think the difference is the long tunnel.
They were the only people that care.
Yeah. Well, you know me. I learn these things so that next time you say a log flume or a log ride,
yes.
I'll be like, actually, Brandon,
you can correct me.
Yep, that's a mill chute. Idiot.
I love doing this podcast.
Yeah. So Many flat rides were added in the 40s and 50s. So moving along in history, one of those flat rides in 1941 was the Auto Scooters, which is bumper cars. The Auto Scooters building is still standing and is now Scooters Pizza, which is pretty cool. And I love this one, that this was like a huge note on their website. In 1948, are you sitting down, Brandon? They opened the Cake House, which is for birthday parties, which I love that that's part of their history of like a big deal. Can you imagine some amusement park now being like, next year, our big project is a cake house. It's a pavilion for your birthday parties.
I could imagine that, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Actually, you know what I could see is people complaining of like, you guys didn't even improve the park. And they're like, whoa, we added a cake house. We
added the cake house. Thank you. Again, we hate to always dog on our local park, but they don't do what we want. So we are mad at them constantly because that's the reasonable thing to do.
Right. We go on Reddit.
See I'm going there?
Yeah.
But our park does that. They say, we're going to open a ride. And 20 years later, they open that ride. In the meantime, here's a ride that is like 6 other rides already at this park.
Another spinner ride. Thank you.
Another spinner ride. Another Dumbo-like ride. But this one has water on it.
Moving along, in 1960, they opened their first coaster. It was Mad Mouse. It's a Wild Mouse style ride. And I think you could figure that out by the title Mad Mouse. But here we go. This is where the history gets interesting. These next 3 years are just bangers, dude. 1967, Cannonball opens. And Cannonball is still currently running. It is a wooden roller coaster. It was a John C. Allen wooden roller coaster. And so that's 67. In 1968, they get an antique Philadelphia toboggan carousel. It is brand new, pre-owned, which is interesting because I was looking at a plaque and it says that they got the carousel in 1967. So my guess is that they opened it in 1968. And then in 1969, they get a Bill Tracy dark ride called the Castle. If you've never heard that name before, Bill Tracy is the king of dark rides. There's so many dark rides across the country. And if you start doing research, Bill Tracy's name will come up quite a bit. But I have a question for you, Brandon. Do you know what the significance is of 1967, just in the U.S. in general? Not at this park.
What is significant about 1960? Oh, no. It's the bicentennial. That's what it is. No?
1776 to 1967.
Okay.
1967 is, I'll just tell you because you're not going to guess it. It was the first NHL expansion.
Oh, no. I know. The last time the Detroit Lions won a playoff game.
No, it was the last time the Toronto Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup, actually.
Is that really what it was?
Well, that's true. But then in 1967-68 season is when was the first NHL expansion. That's when the St. Louis Blues joined the league, along with other teams like the Philadelphia Flyers, the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Los Angeles Kings, the California Seals.
You know what's significant about 2025?
Oh, my gosh. Go ahead and say it. I know you're going to say. Oh, I know what's significant about 2025 is you're going to owe me $100.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Okay. Brandon's alluding to news that Utah's getting an NHL team. And I had to...
You had to correct me.
I had to...
Because he never does that.
Help you realize that it doesn't work like that.
Through your superior knowledge.
Yeah. For this time, I will agree that I do have superior knowledge when it comes to the NHL.
I've been an NHL fan ever since I heard that Utah might be getting an NHL team. Okay, so
that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Anyway,
so wait, what's the real thing? What's the real thing that's significant about 1967?
Oh, it was the NHL expansion.
Oh, okay,
man.
I thought we were going just tangent.
Yeah, no.
And there was something theme park related, or amusement park related.
I was moving the needle with our conversation. That's.
You are a needle mover.
So, like I said, 1969, they get a Bill Tracy dark ride, the Castle. So apparently nothing happened between 1969 and 2002 because their website that gives its own history goes from 69 to when they opened Wild Lightning, a steel coaster in 2002. So nothing happened in that time. That's a long time. To celebrate 80 years, Lake Winnie added ozone OH-zone. Like, oh, zone. It's a 140-foot drop tower.
If you go on that ride with a significant other or anybody really, you can show them your O face.
Yeah. Yes, you can. I think 140-foot drop tower, I could handle that. Ours is 200 feet, and that extra 60 feet really makes a big difference.
Size doesn't matter, Matt. Size doesn't matter.
I'm also really bad at gauging. I already mentioned this. I'm bad at gauging like how tall is 140 feet. So you know how I figure it out, how I compare it. Imagine if I was 1 foot tall, and you stacked 140 of me on top of each other. That would be
helps
140.
You.
Yeah.
Really? Okay, it was a joke. Okay, I get it.
In 2012, the Fireball was opened. This is one of those spinning coasters. It's a roller coaster that just spins in a circle, like does a loop. It's just one giant loop. And it's the kind of thing you would see at a carnival or a fair, not a carnival, a fair. And whenever there are wires that go from the top of it down to the ground to anchor it into the ground, those wires make me feel less safe than if there were no wires. I don't know why. But I just see those wires and I'm like, no, thank you. I am not riding this ride. If I went to a park, again in Denver, Ellich Gardens, I think it's Ellich, they have one of these, but it's like a big one that doesn't have those wires. I'd feel more safe on that one than the Fireball because the wires are anchoring it to the ground. Have you ever been on one of these looping coasters?
Not to my knowledge.
And I'm pretty sure some have fallen down at like state fairs. Anyway, we won't dwell on that too much. The next year, 2013, Lake Winnie expands with a water park. Soak your
head, fresh boy.
Yeah, soak ya, and soak is capitalized. So I'm not sure if we're missing something there or they're just calling it soak ya. I don't know if it's a play on words or what. And then in 2018, by popular demand, Genie makes a return. I'm not sure what to call this ride, what type of ride it is, but it's one where you everybody stands in a circle with your back against the wall, facing the center, and it starts spinning and then lifting up. And it's not in a building. It's not one of those where the floor drops out, but you just spin and the wheel that you're on starts lifting up.
Kind of like the one I referenced with the clip from The Simpsons.
Oh, where Bart spits?
Yeah.
What episode was that?
I don't know.
I do remember you making that reference, though. So that's the history that I have. Some fun facts. If you are afraid of clowns, do not go to this park. Brandon, are you afraid of clowns?
I'm not afraid of clowns, no.
No, neither am I. But
I feel like it's the popular thing. It's the cool thing is to be scared of clowns.
yeah.
But as the youth say, clowns to me are very mid.
Wow.
They ain't got no Riz.
I never heard that before.
You never heard of Riz?
No. Riz?
No cap, man.
I don't know what that means. I know what based means. We used that word last week. Anyway, there are clowns all over the park, and not live clowns. These are clowns like sitting on benches for you to take a picture with them. And all the garbage cans have clown heads on them for you to throw your trash away in their mouth. I feel like this is a really old school amusement park thing that used to be way more common and people got rid of them. But this park, Lake Winnie, is holding on to those clowns. So if you're scared of clowns, you might want to stay away. Another fun fact. I don't know if this is a fun fact. I just noticed it and wanted to throw it in there somewhere. So this park has a mini golf course, and it appears there's a Sinclair dinosaur that's painted pink with black stripes at this golf course. So that's a far ways away from where you typically find Sinclair dinosaurs. Another fun fact, there's a ski lift ride called Alpine Way. It goes over the lake, and it's one way, meaning you get to the end and you just turn around. You can only enter and exit on one side, but it goes over the lake. And apparently people claim, I don't know how true this is, if they're like trying to impress their friends, but they claim that they used to jump off the ski lift into the lake below. I don't know how deep the lake is. I do know you can see fish while you're up on the ski lift going over the lake, so that's cool. Another fun fact, there's a moat that goes around the Wacky Factory, and we'll get to what that is, and the carousel. So there's this moat that goes around them, and apparently I was reading comments. I can't even remember what comments I was reading. Apparently you used to be able to swim in that moat and like swim around those rides but the water looked disgusting. So I don't think they allow you to do that anymore. But that's interesting. If you've been there and you remember that from your childhood, let us know. Shoot us an email at amusementparkroadtrip@gmail.com. But that's just what people are saying. The last fun fact, especially for Brandon, is that they sell Dippin' Dots here. I was looking at restaurants and food to see if they had anything unique, and they listed all their places, and one of those was a Dippin' Dots building.
All right, and we'll end it there. Thanks for listening to Amusement Park Road Trip.
So that's the history and fun facts. Why don't we take a walk through the park?
I have a question.
Mhm.
Why don't we do quizzes no more?
I just took them out. Took it too much time. Did you
Okay,
really like
that's
the
all.
quizzes?
That was just a quiz for you on why we don't do quizzes.
Yeah,
And you got the answer right. It takes too much time.
it takes too much time. When I started doing this podcast, I thought, what are things that I like listening to that I get excited when people doing their podcasts? And one of them is quizzes, because it's usually topics. Obviously, I'm listening to podcasts about things I'm interested in. So when they're giving quizzes, I like to be like, oh, what is this? What is this?
You like to play along.
Yeah, I play along at home. So I thought, oh, maybe our listeners would like to play along. Turns out it takes a long time when you want to do a shorter podcast. The first ride we're going to talk about 4 rides here. The first is Boat Chute. So I mentioned this opened in 1927, and it is considered the oldest mill chute attraction still operating in the U.S. According to the oh my gosh, I'm just going to say it all over
I'll do
again.
it. According to the National Amusement Park Historical Association.
Yep, that's the
There you
one.
go.
Thank you. And when I was doing my research and I wasn't looking at this one specifically, when I was trying to figure out what's the difference between a mill, chute, I don't know, log flume / log ride, it lists them in America, and it lists whether they were open and closed. But this one was the very first one, and the rest after them were like all closed. So this is the first one, 1927, and still open.
Oh, I know the difference. If it's a mill chute, it has one of those water wheels.
Is that really it?
No, just that's what they have at mills. So I just imagine
That was plausible.
if you have one of those, it's a mill chute.
I don't know. Something interesting about this Boat Chute, which I think it's funny that's the name. It's like our roller coaster is so old that it's just called roller coaster. It doesn't even need a name. This one's just Boat Chute. It's the first. That's all it needs to be called. It's built right on the lake. So they didn't bring water in for this. When you go down, you just go down straight into the lake. I hope that's clean lake water.
Could you imagine if our local park did this?
Ew, that's so disgusting. That water is so gross.
Any of the surrounding waters? But
Yeah.
it would be actually a great location for it because there's nothing going on over there. So
Ugh.
disgusting, but efficient.
There's potential. When you come down the hill, yeah, it feels like you're going right into the lake. You can't really see the guardrails. So it really does feel like you're dropping right into the lake. But obviously there are rails or else you would just drift out onto the lake. So yeah, this was a really cool one. Again, I mentioned if you watch a video of this, it's pretty funny because the beginning, like 45 seconds to a minute, is just a dark tunnel. You can't see anything. You're like, this is a fun ride. So I wonder how many children have been conceived in that tunnel of love
Or in the bushes of love.
or in the bushes of love. That's another callback to a previous episode. Busch Gardens, I can remember that one. The next attraction I want to talk about is Wacky Factory. And this might be a sensitive subject for some people because this is the Bill Tracy dark ride, the castle, and they changed it to Wacky Factory. So
Yeah, it sucks.
it opened in either 69 or 70, the castle. I found conflicting because like in the history of the park, it says it opened in 69, I think. And then on Bill Tracy, it's like billtracyproject.org where it lists all of his projects he did. It says 1970. So I'm actually just going to go with the website on the actual park and say 1969. And like I said, it was called the castle. But as I did research on this, I found that Bill Tracy also did a walkthrough attraction at this park called the Wacky Shack. And that opened sometime in the 60s, and they don't know when it closed. So I'm curious how long it was there. There's really not much documentation on this place, but I did find more information on it from another website. So it did exist. The castle was originally a 2-story dark ride, but had to go to a single level due to fire code, which Brendan and I have a Bill Tracy dark ride in our amusement park. And as a kid, I always thought it used to go up in the attic, which was not true. But the facade of the building has like an upstairs with windows. And in my mind, I was so sure that it used to go up there and go by those windows. It was just never true.
Same. I was just always too scared to ride it and find out.
Oh, I would ride it and just cover my ears and close my eyes. Not afraid to admit that. In 2011, the ride was renamed to Wacky Factory, and it was rethemed from like a scary dark ride to a brightly colored factory that would bring laughs instead of screams.
So this was them basically just copying Monsters, Inc.
Yeah, it went from we scare because we care to what is it now? They just make kids laugh.
They just tell jokes. The laughs are more efficient than the screams, except when you're talking about this ride.
The laughs weren't doing much because they did change it back to being scary, but it like a weird in between. They left all the brightly colored painted stuff in there and then just threw some scary props back in. So it's kind of
There's
weird.
regrets. They regret changing it, I'm sure.
Yeah. When they did change it to Wacky Factory, they did take, here, this is going back to the Bill Tracy Wacky Shack. They took props from Wacky Shack and put it in the new Wacky Factory. So they kept them around. It was still there. But yeah, now it's a weird in between where it's like, I can't tell if you're trying to be funny or scary, and not in a good way, like with Haunted Mansion, where it does it well on both sides, where it can be funny and scary. This one's just confusing. They do have a classic at the end, a truck honks at you. So that's a classic dark ride gag. But yeah, that's it for the Wacky Factory / the castle. We'll quickly cover Cannonball, which is the wooden roller coaster I mentioned. That was built in 1967 and designed by John C. Allen and built by the Philadelphia Toboggan Company. This coaster is 2,272 feet long with a 70-foot drop and speeds getting up to 50 miles per hour. If you're not sure how long 2,272 feet is, imagine yourself being 1 foot long and then 2,272 of you stretched out. That's how long it would be.
Thank you.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I highly suggest watching a video of this roller coaster because there's something very unique about it. When you're pulling into the station, the brakes are controlled by these giant levers that teenagers are switching. Like the lever's as tall as them, and they push it down. They have 2 levers, like scissors almost. They push and then they pull it back. That's the brakes. So your life is in the hands of teenagers when you're on this ride. And I don't think I've seen that in any other wooden roller coaster, especially that we've covered. Have you ever seen anything like this before?
No, I have not.
It is interesting. When you load into the train, they pull that lever and you roll off. So it is really cool to see something unique. This is an ACE landmark, which is an American Coaster Enthusiasts landmark. And this is where the history gets interesting. They named it Cannonball to recognize the park site and surrounding areas as being encampments for both sides of the Civil War. And they don't...
Interesting.
Well, it gets more interesting. The coaster has 2 different trains, one painted Union blue and the other Confederate gray. So you could be in quite the predicament if you're like, I really prefer this gray train here. There's just something I really like about it. It's kind of a weird thing, but the website, this bothered me. The website title for the ride's Cannonball with no space, but then inside the description of the ride, it's Cannonball spaced out and cannon and ball are capitalized, which is what it really is. Which brings me to my next point. This is important for the listeners.
For the love. Oh, geez. Here we go.
I gave Brandon this lecture this week. My job, my literal job where I make money, is to correct people and look for mistakes like this. So I just can't help it. That's what I'm really good at. And that's what I do for my life, is find small mistakes like this.
He does it for my life too. And I don't pay him. I wish I could do the opposite.
You actually do pay me. So anyway.
Huh? What?
Your Magic Candle Company order.
Okay.
Money in my pocket.
I paid you 50 something cents.
No, it was like $1.50, man.
No way.
Yeah. 10%.
You made that much money?
And 10%.
You didn't give me any of it?
It's just sitting in the account.
All right, we better get this wrapped up.
Yeah, we got to get this wrapped up.
I'll take the carousel. So they have a carousel. It was built in 1916. Really cool. And that was our carousel review.
How dare you? Hey, Brandon,
What?
let's do a carousel review.
Okay.
All right, this is called The Carousel on the plaque at the park, but on their website, it's Antique Carousel. This is a Philadelphia toboggan carousel. It was built in 1916. And again, I think they got it in 1967, so it was brand new, pre-owned. It was the 39th carousel that Philadelphia Toboggan Carousel Company built. And according to the plaque in front of it, it's one of the largest antique carousels in the United States.
It's a weird claim to make when it's not the largest, but
Yeah, that's what I thought.
hey, we're almost the biggest.
Right.
We're almost the best.
Well, then you're like, okay, so how many are in between this kind of thing? Like how
It's
many?
like someone will come
carousels?
into the park and they'll say, wow, congratulations, you did it. Almost the biggest carousel in the country.
That's what I would do. And the teenager working the carousel would just be like, this guy's an idiot. This carousel was originally built for Lakewood Park in Atlanta, Georgia, and it was moved to Lake Winnie, like I said, in 1967. This was interesting. Some horses are maintained with fresh coat of paint and lacquer. It's all buffed and looking good. And some of them are just aged antique horses that they haven't updated. And I think it's intentional. It's really cool. Maybe not intentional. Maybe they're like, we're going to fix these 10 this year. And they're just going through all of them. But it's actually really cool when you see a really worn down horse. So
PETA's coming for you after that one.
oh, yeah, that's true. Wooden horse, a worn down wooden horse. And the last thing I'll mention is the Calliope music machine. Dang it. The Calliope music machine has Bernie Organ Company on the top. And then under it says Phila Toboggan Company and the year 1960 under that. So I think that's the original Calliope music machine that came with the carousel.
You better not edit that out.
Oh, I'll leave that in. I think that's it for the park. We took our time getting through those 4 attractions, but it's a really cool park. In fact, I wanted to make this comment. When I watched the video, it's that weird feeling of like, I swear I've been here and I know I never have, but this is what like summer vacation feels like when you watch it, if that makes sense.
It's a reincarnated version of yourself.
Yeah, probably. That's what it is. So with all that said, Brandon, what one ride would you want to ride?
Not the boat chute. Sounds disgusting and cold. Cannonball sounds racist. And it's not going to be the carousel. Let's go with Wacky Factory. Because you know I love those dark rides.
Yeah, good choice.
I love the dark rides.
I would do the cannonball.
Ill-contrived.
I think we're getting to that point in our relationship where we just find each other boring because I can guess what you're going to pick and you can guess what I'm going to pick. I knew you'd say Wacky Factory. You probably knew I'd say Cannonball.
True. Because I know you're racist.
We got to spice things up somehow. I don't know. Anyway, before we have our final thoughts, I just wanted to mention, I'm not going to do a huge long plug about using our affiliate link for Magic Candle Company. I will just say somebody used our link last week. So anyway, thank you for putting some money in our pocket, but not a lot of money.
Every little bit makes a difference, you know?
That's true.
But if you're feeling generous, you don't even have to go to Magic Candle Company. I mean, it's the best way because you're going to get something out of it. But you could just send us money, and that would be an acceptable way to support us as well.
Yeah, mail us some cash. Just kidding. So, final questions. Brandon, would you really want to visit this park?
Sure. I think it sounds cool enough.
I would. I don't know. It's really hard for me to find a park I wouldn't want to visit, though. So, but this would be a cool park to visit. Does it have a waterfall in the park? No, but it has a lake. Oh, I think at one point it did have a waterfall in Wacky Factory. So we'll count it.
Sad.
You know, those dark ride waterfalls that the water's running. As soon as you get to it, it stops.
Oh, yeah. That's like a water drip, not really a waterfall.
Okay.
I don't know.
We'll count it. I don't know. I mean, this is a really big deal.
But you said it used to have that.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So it does not currently have any sort of a waterfall.
To my knowledge, no.
Sad day. Let us know if it does.
Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Hopefully on my next winter business trip, I go somewhere that does keep their parks open all year so I can go to a place like this. Actually, I don't know. This one, I'm assuming it would be closed too. I didn't actually look into it because it was probably too far away from me anyway. But
You can't imagine riding the boat chute into a lake in the middle of winter.
yeah, it would be really cold. Yeah, I have to assume parks need some downtime, except for obviously the Disney parks, right? I'm just looking. Oh yeah, it's definitely closed. Okay, so I don't need to feel like I missed out. Like if I could have just went north a little bit, I could have went to this park, but I couldn't. It was closed. So, but if they send me on a business trip in not the winter, there you go. I'm riding not the boat chute, but something else.
Might get staff. Well, I have no final thoughts.
Okay.
Oh, I will mention this. Dang it, Brandon. We're out of time. I did not have time to tell the story about how there was a 700 teenager fight in the parking lot of the park that implemented a rule 16 and under had to have a chaperone. That's all the bullet points of the story. But if you go to Wikipedia,
Isn't
there is an
Knott's Berry
incident.
Farm?
Maybe, but it happened here too.
Oh my gosh.
It was
Knott's Berry Farm, didn't they implement a rule that you have to have a chaperone? I don't know if it was
Yes.
a result of a 700 teenager fight. That's a lot of teens, man.
So
It's got to be like 2 high schools.
I don't know how many actually started fighting. Just 700 teenagers. They started getting rowdy because they closed the park early because those teenagers were getting too rowdy. And then so they went out into the parking lot and chaos followed.
Wow.
So anyway,
Chaperones.
so I said we didn't have time and I basically told you all the bullet points. All right. Well, that's it for this
cool
week.
story, bro.
Thank you. I thought it was good story, bro. Good story, brother.
No. Hell yeah, brother.
That's right. That is it for this week. If you're listening and you have not checked out our YouTube channel, check it out. We do YouTube shorts every day. Some are okay and some are not great, but we do them every day. But we try our best to keep it entertaining. So if you want a quick fun fact about an amusement park ride, each day we'll have something for you. So,
And I mess up the algorithm by creating my shorts.
yes, you did. Dang, we should have got into that. Something to start off next week. There's a cliffhanger for you.
We might not make it by next week because of the things I've been watching on YouTube.
Yeah, that's how I was going to start the episode.
Oh.
If we don't have an episode out next week, we have been assassinated.
Yes.
Let's end on that note. Have a good week.